What up, Winbush here, and today I want to show you guys how we can make this first person body cam style all within UEFN. So to get started, as you can see on screen here, everything is in first person mode. We have the overlay that looks like it's coming through a body cam or a camcorder. We have some film grain in there, and everything is saturated in black and white. So I'm going to go through step by step and show you guys all the steps that you need to duplicate this exact look right here. So the first thing we're going to need is the overlay. And now if I double click on my item right here, you can see that I made this camera view. It's just a PNG file with the alpha channel. You can easily make this in like Photoshop or Illustrator, or even find something online. Just look up Bodycam or camcorder overlay and you should be able to find something. And the thing too is I made this 1920 by 1080. You want to make sure your overlay is underneath 2K. But since most people are playing Fortnite on 16:9 monitors or the TV screens, having it 1920 by 1080 will make sure that it's full screen on the player's viewer side. So the first thing I'm going to do from here is come down here to my content drawer. I'm actually going to dock this into my layout so that I can click and drag my texture into my content browser down here. So I'm just going to drag in my file explorer. You can see I have my PNG file right here. I'm just going to left click, drag this into here. And then I can actually exit this out like so. And now you can see that we have our texture here. So I'm just going to save all, save selected. And then from here, I'm just going to right click on my mouse. And down here under user interface, I'm going to come to widget blueprint. And the first thing we're going to do is actually build out the overlay, because that's the easiest thing to build out. So once I have this selected right here, I want to come over to user widget. And then down here, I'm just going to name this one overlay like so. And then I'm going to double click on it. And now this is going to bring up this grid window. Now what we want to do from here is on the left hand side under panel, we want to select this first one. This is canvas panel. So I'm just going to left click and drag it into here. And this is going to bring up our green box in here, in which if I make this a little bit smaller, I can actually click and drag our texture into here. So right here, that overlay texture that we just dragged and dropped, our PNG, I'm going to left click, drag that into here, make this full screen again. And now you can see that we have it within here. Now the easiest way about making this full screen will be to come over here under a details panel on the right hand side, and where it says position, I'm actually just going to zero both of these out, and this is going to anchor it to our left hand corner, in which I know the size of my overlay is 1920 by 1080, because remember I built this out at 16:9, but depending on what you have on here, it might be a little bit different. Now, if you look down here in the lower left-hand corner, it's going to tell you that this window box here is 16:9. So that's why I made this overlay 16:9. So everything's going to be full screen. Now, once you're happy with your placement, you can just come over here to compile. And then I'm going to click on save. And then we can exit this out. So I'm just going to hit save all again, because I usually do that every time I do something. And then the next thing we want to do is right here on the left-hand side under all, I'm going to select this. And inside of my search bar, I'm going to type in Hud Message. And that's going to bring up our Hud Message Device, which we can just click and drag and drop it anywhere inside of our viewport here. And now with this selected in my details panel, there's a couple of options that we want to select. So starting up here where it says show on round start, you want to select this on. And then right here, time from round start, we're just going to make this 0. So it shows up right away. And then for show for duration, we actually want to click this off, because we want this to show the entire time. And then the last thing we want to do is come down here to the bottom where it says HUD widget. Now with the recent update of UEFN, it seemed like there might be a glitch in here. Like before, I was able to drag and drop our widget that we recently just made into here, but that doesn't seem to work. So let me show you. So if I come right here, come down to my body cam content folder, right here, this widget, usually I was able to click and drag it into here. But now you see that it's not allowing it to do it. And even if I select right here, you don't see it selection under here. Now the workaround that I found is make sure that you have your widget selected. And if I come right here to this first arrow, if I select this, now you can see it's inside of our widget window. Now with that inside of there, everything that we need to have our overlay is done. Then up here, I'm going to launch my session and let's see what it looks like. So now with our game started, you can see that we actually have the overlay, and it's up the entire time on our screen. Now the next step from here, let's put this in first person view. So now that we know the overlay works, now we're going to put it in first person view. And I previously just did a tutorial on this, so I'm going to run through this pretty fast. If you want the complete overview, make sure you go check that video out. Now back inside of UEFN, I'm just going to come up here to where we have this cube right here for quickly add the project. I'm going to left click and come down here to volumes. I'm going to add a block volume. Now I'm just going to center this out under my transform right here. And now we're inside the middle here. And then for my scale, I'm just going to scale this up, maybe like 100. Just want to make sure that it's really large in here. And then over here inside of my outliner, you want to make sure that you have it selected. So block volume right here. And then once we do that, we want to come down here where it says collision presets. I'm going to click on invisible wall. And what we're going to do is keep scrolling down here until we see Fort camera right here, Fort camera only. Now with this selected right here, now everything should be in first person mode. So again, I'm going to save all, and then we can launch session just to see what it's going to look like. So here we are with the project launched up again. As you can see right here, we have our launch pads. We're in first person mode, and now we have our overlay. So it's starting to really shape up. The next thing we could do from here, we could add some film grain, we could add some saturation, and maybe even the environment just to bring this all home. Now that we have everything really starting to shape up, the last thing we're going to do is we're going to add some style to it. So we can add film grain, chromatic aberration, we can add some saturation, like if we wanted to make it black and white, maybe like a Blair Witch type vibe, but we could do all that with the post-process volume. Now back here inside of Unreal Engine or UEFN, I'm going to come up here to where it says quickly add the project. I'm going to left click on this, come back down here to volumes, and this time I want to add a post-process volume. Now anybody that's used Unreal Engine 5 should be really familiar with how this works, and I'm going to zero it out just to have it in my center here. And the first thing I want to do is under search, I'm going to type in UMB, and that's going to bring up infinite extent unbound. Now I'm going to select this on, and what this means is anything that I do inside of my post-process volume is going to affect the entire scene. So remember, with our block volume, we actually had to make it really large to engulf our scene here. With the post-process volume, it gives us the infinite extent, which means we don't have to make this extremely large. Like whatever we do in here, it's just going to work. So the first thing I'm going to do is come under here, under bloom. I'm just going to turn on intensity and threshold just because I like to do that. And then the next step from here, I'm going to come down here to where it says chromatic aberration. I'm actually going to turn this on. And if I scroll this up, you can see it's starting to give this cool effect on there. Like especially if we look down at the lines down here, let's scroll this up and down. So you might not want to overdo it, but a little bit is pretty good there. So maybe around 3. You can always do offset too. So like if we come over here, select this offset, maybe it's going to only affect the edges, but inside the middle, it's still pretty sharp. So if you do offset, maybe like 0.2, just so the viewer will have a sharp image in the middle, but the further out you get on the vignette, maybe it starts adding that effect there. So we can actually turn this up a little bit, somewhere around there. Then we're going to close this up, and just keep going down. Maybe if we want to add a vignette like we were talking about before, under image effects, I'm going to select this on, and then I'm going to turn up my vignette, and what that's going to do is darken around the area. The vignette is good if you want a player to always be looking directly more in the middle. You can just darken up the edges, and that's going to make our field of view really apparent here in the center. And then keep scrolling down here, and first I'm going to come down here to where it says global and saturation. Now if we turn this all the way down, it's going to make it black and white. And then with our contrast, if we move this up, it's going to make it even more crunched. So somewhere around here, especially if you're doing like a horror game or something like that, this type of effect is going to look really cool. If you want to add maybe just a tad bit of color in there, maybe like 0.1, somewhere around there, that could look pretty cool as well. But again, this is up to you and how you want your style of game to look. And I'm going to keep scrolling down right here under miscellaneous. The only option we have in here would be scene color. So if I come over, make it maybe somewhere around here, that could look a little bit cool, somewhere around there. So again, you can play around with that if you want, and then keep scrolling down. The next thing I want to do is film grain. Now if I come down here, select film grain, let's turn this all the way up. Now you can see it's really starting to look like body cam footage there. If you want to change like the size of the film grain, if you select right here where it says film grain textile size, we can actually scroll this down. When you have it 0, of course it's going to have nothing. You have it all the way up, it's really going to amplify the effect there. So just be leery. If you don't want to have it up too much, then it's really going to block the viewer and they're not going to really be able to see that much. So maybe like 0.5, somewhere around there should be suffice. And I think that's going to do it. So again, come down here to content drawer. I'm going to save all, save selected. Now let's launch our session and see what this looks like. Now we're inside of our gameplay. You can see everything is grainy, it's saturated, we're in first person view, and yeah, we have our overlay going on, and this is looking really neat. So this is giving you guys a head start if you want to create this type of gameplay. So I can see this working for like a Blair Witch type vibe, or I know like the Bodycam stuff was really popular, especially with Unreal Engine 5 whenever that gameplay footage had came out. So now we could do it inside of Fortnite, and of course it looks pretty bland here. So let's go back and add an environment, but you know, this is going to be based on what your gameplay is going to be. Now that's pretty much the end of the tutorial. Now if you want to see what it looks like with objects in there, you can easily come back over into UEFN, come down here to your content drawer, and I just did a search for warehouse just to see what would pop up. So I'm going to come over here, let's maybe have the warehouse selected right there, and I'm going to come back over to launch session and let's play through this. Now this is the gameplay. We just have this warehouse in here. So now you can really start to get a feel for what gameplay would actually look like. So we're just scrolling inside of this warehouse here, walking up the steps. You can see how you can make some type of haunted game here, or even like a body cam first person shooter type game in here. But this is looking really neat, and it's looking different than a lot of stuff that's on UEFN. So if you wanted to replicate this style here, this is giving you a sense of exactly what you could be creating in here. So hopefully this tutorial helped you guys out. If it did, please subscribe to the channel. Leave me a comment down below. Maybe share some of your island codes if you do use this technique. Let me see some of the stuff that you guys come up with. And until next time, stay fresh, keep building, and I'll catch you in the next video. I'll see you soon. Take care.